by Sofia Lotto Persio. Last weekend's British Grand Prix turned out to be a thrill ride that stood out even in a season that has shaken up Formula One. The introduction of a 100-kilometer sprint on Saturday to determine the grid for Sunday's main event saw Max Verstappen jump ahead of Lewis Hamilton even as flames shot out from his front brakes at the start of the race. A day later, a controversial collision between the two crashed Verstappen out of the race and sent him to the hospital. The victorious Hamilton, who is black, was attacked on social media with a torrent of racial slurs. Unpleasant as it all was, the on-track action was badly needed drama for a sport trying not only to accelerate out of the slow drag of stagnating ratings and last year's steep revenue drop-off, but also to find a way to avoid a looming head-on collision with policymakers looking to kill the gas-powered car. Ultimately, what we want to do is we want to be the most exciting sport in the world, says Yath Gangakumaran, F1's Director of Strategy and Business Development and the executive in charge of both driving the world's oldest motorsport out of its doldrums and weaning it off the 1950s-era fuel that has powered it for more than 70 years. Despite the introduction of hybrid engines in 2014, F1 racing remains largely dependent on the oil and gas giants whose logos adorn tracks and the sides of the series' sleekly aerodynamic vehicles, which can burn up to 240 pounds of fuel per race. This all contributes to a carbon footprint of 256,000 tons of carbon dioxide, according to F1 owner Liberty Media's first-ever audit for the 2018 season. That's the equivalent of providing energy to approximately 28,000 homes for the same period. Toss in the carbon emissions of F1 fans, as the BBC did, and the footprint increased to 1.9 million tons, or about 207,000 homes, which is roughly the size of Salt Lake City. The fuel consumption itself accounts for less than 1% of the total footprint, but its impact on the race's survival is larger than that as policymakers around the world look to clamp down on the use of fossil fuel-powered vehicles. In the UK, the home of F1 since the series' start in 1950, lawmakers announced earlier this year a plan to eliminate the sale of internal combustion engine vehicles by 2030. A similar ban in the European Union will hit 5 years later. In the US, a growing number of states are considering similar measures, including Washington, Hawaii and California, one of the world's biggest car markets. While motorsports like F1, NASCAR and MotoGP grapple with ways to use biofuels, carmakers and consumers are racing toward a battery-powered future. Lawnmowers, Bernie Ecclestone, the British billionaire once dubbed F1 Supremo, scoffed in 2012 when, as head of a then $9 billion business, he dismissed the threat of electric cars as stupid. Now in the hands of another aged billionaire, U.S.